And we're celebrating 50 years of Star Trek. Can you believe it? I can't believe it.
No, I can't either, because it just seems like yesterday there was a 25th anniversary, because I remember being a kid and getting the 25th anniversary TV guide special edition that they put out and thinking, my God, 25 years. And now it's 50. I feel old. How about you?
Wow. Speaking of TV guide, I do remember the TV guide, the first TV guide that had the Next Generation on the cover of it.
It was Captain Picard and
Data and Number One and that brings me back actually.
Absolutely.
To TV guide. Wow. But yeah, and I remember trying to figure out who was the analogous member of that crew from the first one, because I didn't realize it was a continuation. I thought they were just redoing it.
Really? You thought it was a remake?
Yeah.
I never, that thought never crossed my mind when the Next Gen came out. I just knew it was Star Trek without Captain Kirk and Spock and McCoy, and it was like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
It was unthinkable at the time.
I know. I was a kid, and kids are stupid. So.
Yeah, I remember like when that first episode was released on VHS, watching it, because I didn't see it on the actual when it aired. I saw it on VHS, Encounter at Farpoint, and just going, yeah, this isn't working. This is not working for me. There's no Kirk, there's no Spock, there's no McCoy. This ain't working. Right. And then, boy, was I proven wrong. I think I really was. Well, in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, Star Trek: The Next Generation had way more seasons than the original. The original series, 50 years ago today, first aired. It only lasted like 2 3/4 seasons, like 93 episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
It was September 8th, 1966. Sorry, 1966.
1804.
Yeah, it was the Pleistocene era, and the dinosaurs were just starting to lumber out. No,
I saw that episode.
No, shame on me for getting the date wrong already. But yes, so we were talking about first how did you
hearing, yeah.
But also, how did you get introduced to Star Trek, or were you always knowledgeable about it? It was always a part of your.
I kind of always knew about it. I remember when I was really young, if I stayed up really late, because they would air the reruns of the original series. If I stayed up really late, I would catch part of an episode, and I just knew it was like part of. I just felt it as part of the culture. I didn't really realize it was. I just thought it was a natural thing.
Yeah, it's just a given. It's like Disney. When you're a little kid, you don't remember being introduced to Disney. Disney was always there.
Exactly.
You know? So that's so you actually. My memory of being introduced to Star Trek, I remember it very clearly, because I was like, one of my first memories. I was like 3, and I was doing something in the living room with my dad, and my dad's like, taking care of me and whatever, and I do something that kids do, whether it's drawing a picture or playing with a toy or whatever the hell I did. My dad said, "Wow, that's just like Captain Kirk." I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what the connection was, but I was like, "Who?" And my dad was like, "Captain Kirk? You don't know who Captain Kirk is? Come on, Spock.
Yeah.
You've never heard of Spock." And in hindsight, I would be like, "Dad, I'm 3. And we're living in Hong Kong.
He's smoking a cigarette. Dad, I'm 3.
Dad, I'm 3. We're in Hong Kong here. There's no Google. I can't get on an iPad and Google this shit and go like, oh, that's who they're talking." No, like, Dad, you are the only source of my pop culture at this point in my life. So if you didn't introduce me to Star Trek, I don't know it. But that was when he was like, you don't know who Mr. Spock is. I've never told you about Captain Kirk. You don't know what the Enterprise is. And I'm like, no. And he's like, okay, that's it. We're going to the video store. We're gonna get a couple Betamax tapes. So he takes me to the video store, and at the time, the only 2 things that were available on Betamax were Star Trek: The Motion Picture and Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And he's subjecting a 3-year-old to Star Trek: The Motion Picture as my first introduction to Star Trek.
I can see that being. See, when I was a kid, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, I imagine, as when you were a kid, was long, tenuous, boring, not anticlimactic. Just I would fall asleep during it. But now, I have a whole new appreciation for it, and it's probably in my top 3 Star Trek film of all of them.
Really,
Yeah.
that's surprising. But I've got some surprising, favorites as well. But that does surprise me that you appreciate that movie that much. Because when I was 3, my dad just spent the entire 2.5 hours going, no, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And then at the end of it, it was like, okay, well, the next one is better. The next one is. We'll watch this one next.
It's gonna get better in a few years.
It's going to get better in a few years. This
movie right here.
This whole V'ger thing is kind of. I'm like, Daddy, what's it? No, it's nothing like Star Wars. It was more like watching 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Right.
Than Star Wars, which is what I was used to at the time. But he was right that because Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan was amazing. It was that was the one that cemented it for me, because I was like, okay, the first movie I don't want to see again ever, and the second one, yes, that one's great, and then the third one we went to see that one in the theater, and it was the first time I saw a Star Trek movie in the theater with my dad when I was like 4.
The Search for Spock.
The Search for Spock.
Cool.
And that's become my favorite of the Star Trek movies.
That's a good one. That is definitely a good one. But yeah, that first one, I found a whole new appreciation for it, and just as a sidebar, as a kid, Leonard Nimoy was so inseparable from Spock. So whenever I saw him in another TV show or narrating, a science show or something like that, it was Spock.
Yeah.
It was always Spock. I always thought that was
even when he showed up in Transformers, it was like, oh, Spock is a Decepticon now. I'll run with it.
Yeah. He had such a great voice.
He did.
For that.
He did have a really great voice. Definitely. The entire cast. I don't think there's anybody in the original cast that didn't leave an impression or some kind of mark on every fan's life.
I definitely appreciate that about the actors who portrayed the original cast, because someone like DeForest Kelley is just so synonymous with the mannerisms and the quirks of Bones, and he created that character, and so it's really cool when Carl Urban does his impression.
Very spot-on impression of DeForest Kelley. Did you know that DeForest Kelley was primarily known for being a bad guy actor for the longest time?
Really?
Before Star Trek, he was in westerns like Gunsmoke and Have Gun Will Travel and things like that, and he was always the evil gunslinging bad guy who gets shot at the end. It's really, really weird. I saw him in some western, and I was like, that's not DeForest Kelley. That's not Dr. McCoy.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's the weirdest thing ever when you see them in roles outside of their Star Trek characters.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
That's fantastic. He's a fantastic actor.
Yeah,
he was great.
And Shatner, anytime Shatner shows up in anything, it's pretty much you're gonna watch it no matter what.
He's so watchable. What is it about Shatner's charisma? He's got a unique charisma to that guy. I mean, and he was in a few things before that, so he was kind of before the first airing of Star Trek.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
He did a lot of theater, and that guy has a really, really interesting story. If you've ever read any of his books, and his memoirs about his time during and after the Star Trek show. He had a time when he was broke. After leaving the series, he was broke and living out of his car using his dog as a pillow.
Was it a Pekingese?
No, it was like some big Labrador or something like that. But that's pretty sad, you know.
Wow.
And then he gets into doing conventions, and he gets more money, and thank God for him that Star Trek: The Motion Picture came along. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have much of an acting career today.
Right.
But no, he's had a fascinating career and life and interesting reputation. He's not exactly known as the Mr. Personality.
No, his career is still going. He's got a series coming out, I think, this fall. Actually,
he's got a reality. What is it? A reality show where he goes around with a bunch of other what is it? Him and John Lithgow or something. No, it's not John. It's
It'll
somebody type in and answer this question. What is that? What is Shatner's new reality series that he's doing? A documentary travel type thing. Anyway,
I mean, I'm gonna watch it for a couple episodes and then go, okay, well, that was nice.
Yeah.
You're
funny and old. Wow.
Shatner, that interview show he had though, where he had that weird couch.
Raw nerve.
Yeah.
That was That was very, very uncomfortable to watch. I found myself just cringing at some of the questions, the conversations.
But he's got such ambition, that guy, and he's still going strong. And Star Trek has done him well. I mean, you got to say though, he really did create that character of Kirk in such a way. And if we're going to look at the very first incarnation of Kirk versus the most recent incarnation of Kirk in
The Chris Pine one?
The Chris Pine Star Trek Beyond, I think, in my opinion, this last Star Trek, he really got a hold of the character.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like the first two, I think they got him. The first two are like an approximation of what James Kirk was, and you can kind of justify it as he's young and he's stupid, and who wasn't young and stupid? Yeah. I did some stupid, fucked up shit when I was in college. You know, I was a dumbass. Coffee. Yeah, so I can excuse that, but by the time he's captain of the Enterprise, the whole I'm running around being an idiot thing, that was wrong. I was like, by the time he's in the captain's chair, he shouldn't be such a douche. And that's where they matured him so much in Star Trek Beyond, and I was like, oh, thank God it's not just they gave him the right haircut this time.
Right.
You know, they really made him a grown-up, which by the time Kirk is in the original series, he's 35. And by the time Chris Pine was captaining the Enterprise in the new Kelvin timeline, he was more like 28-ish, mid-20s. Yeah. So he was definitely much younger, but now when I watched Star Trek Beyond, I felt like I was watching young Shatner.
Yeah, it really felt like, they finally embarked on their mission into space, which is, by the third movie of the new JJ-verse, they finally embarked on their whole point.
Took them 2 movies to get to the 5-year mission.
To explore space, you felt that because I guess they're 3 years into their voyage,
and they wrecked the Enterprise in 3 years in.
Yeah, it just goes right down.
Yep, we built this ship for 5 years, and you made it 3. Good job. It's kind of like the original series. Yeah. They planned it out for 5 years, and you wrecked the thing after 3.
Maybe that's what they were going for.
Maybe that's what you're right. I bet that's what they were thinking.
So let's talk a little bit about the original series and Gene Roddenberry's vision of the original series.
Gene Roddenberry is like, the thing about Gene Roddenberry's vision is not just how ahead of its time it was. For the 60s, think about how progressive it was to be talking about all these racial and political issues in such a creative way.
Yeah.
But also that his message is still being echoed 50 years later, and it's still just as relevant now as it was 50 years ago, if not more so.
Yeah, as he orbits the planet.
As he does. As he does. He's up there now.
If you don't know, they took some of Gene Roddenberry's ashes, and was it the Enterprise? Which shuttle launch was that? I don't remember.
I hope it was the Enterprise, because that was...
Is that a shuttle? I hope it is.
Oh no, the Enterprise never flew. The Enterprise shuttle never flew. That was the prototype.
Okay.
So it never actually went up. So,
but they did release his ashes.
They did along with James Doohan, is also up there. He went on the, I think it was like some commercial, like not SpaceX, but one of those things transported his little, his little urn or whatever the hell it is.
It's pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
that's
awesome.
how I want to go.
That's a good way to go.
Cost like $1 billion for a funeral.
Yeah, it's like thousands of dollars per ounce.
Yeah.
But I mean, Gene Roddenberry had a vision, and it does still hold strong today, because there's still things we got to get over as a species, so that we can unite and form sort of this unified planet, and also, before we,
exactly, and
I think that in the '60s there was a whole. He assembled actors of all different backgrounds on purpose. Like he definitely chose the actors he was going to put. Like he had Walter Koenig play a Russian in the middle of the Cold War.
He was purposely pushing for diversity with an audience that would not have accepted it in any other way. Like that's the thing, and today, Yeah, we still see that now. We can't have a Star Trek show without, seeing different races and ideas and political views and some in some cases religions and all that. And the thing about Gene Roddenberry is, as a creator who left behind a legacy, think about this. He has no controversy behind him at all. George Lucas can be considered a very, very divisive creator. Certainly Walt Disney's legacy is kind of tarnished in some ways, but nobody is actually looking at Gene Roddenberry's legacy and going, fuck that guy and everything he stands for. I hate him. No, Gene Roddenberry is like the Nelson Mandela of sci-fi. You can't argue with his view because, well, why would you want to?
He always pushed the limit. He always pushed for his vision, and you got to see that's. I feel there is sort of a difference between the older Gene Roddenberry Star Trek verse versus the JJ verse, in the sense that we're getting there.
Yeah, I think the JJ version. I don't know what his deal was, but he kind of. Star Trek Into Darkness is almost like anti-Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's a very mean Federation with a ship called the Vengeance that 9/11s into Chicago,
Right.
San Francisco, and like smudges the entire city off the map. That's the most grisliest image I saw in Star Trek, and I was like, you guys kind of need to go back to the source material and really re-examine what made the original so great, because that wasn't it. But I think we needed that to kind of prove that dark is darker and gritty is not always better.
Right.
It's like Batman versus Superman. Not everything has to be so depressing.
Brighten it up. So we've got Zombie, a.k.a. Chris. What's up, Zombie, a.k.a. Chris? He says his opinion of Star Trek is it's a bunch of old guys doing stuff. That's all I know. Well,
he's not wrong.
You're not wrong, Chris. Zombie. I'm going to call you Zombie because I think I know who you are, Zombie. Yeah, that's the funny thing. When I was a kid, I was like, these guys seem a little bit old to be in on a ship, but they wrote that into Star Trek V. They have to keep stealing the Enterprise at this point because they're retired. Captain Kirk is now an admiral, so.
Somebody keeps leaving the keys to the Enterprise just anywhere,
Exactly.
That is my favorite scene in all of Star Trek history, by the way. The stealing the Enterprise that you brought up.
That is a good scene.
I love that one.
I do love it. I do think it's cheesy. That's in Star Trek V.
3.
3. Oh, wait, that's right. Don't they steal it again in 5, though?
No, the new one, they get a new Enterprise in 5, at the end of 4, actually.
Yeah.
But they get a new Enterprise, and it's a pile of junk. Like, it's a lemon, which is so funny.
Yeah.
It was the funniest thing ever because they get a new ship and it's crapped out.
Right. And then I do seem to remember that he was getting everybody together, so that Captain Kirk in 5 was getting everybody together to. See, I've seen 5 the least because 5.
You said it's your least favorite.
If I'm going to rank them, 5 is at the bottom for sure. And then I don't really. I'll start with my favorites, I guess. We'll just jump into that. I'd say my favorite Star Trek film is between. How are we going to do this? Should we do the old crew versus the new crew, the Next Generation?
Boy, that's a long discussion there, boy.
Because if I were to look at if I were to rank the first 6, 2 is just so great as far as action and drama.
It is.
And emotion, and strategy, and the whole all the characters are really brought out in that, and it ties into the original series because you have Khan.
It's a sequel to the episode Space Seed.
Yes, and that to me is important about Star Trek. It's the continuity.
That's a lot of continuity there.
They have to keep, and they know that your fans are watching. They know that people are going to be like, that is the nurse from.
And that kind of in some ways is Star Trek's Achilles' heel, kind of, is that the continuity does trip up those writers so much that the fans are looking for it now. And we are come on, let's admit it, fans. We're a pretty nitpicky bunch there. You know it. You know you're guilty of it.
I'm guilty.
You're. We've all, felt so good about ourselves when we pointed out, that didn't work because in this episode, this happened. No, we're all guilty of that. I've done it so many times. But, the continuity does tend to get so confusing that...
Go ahead.
There we go.
Yeah.
And maybe we can fix that. Is that square on my head the entire time?
Yeah, I think it's there, but I don't know. I guess if you angle a little bit, it won't.
So, we were saying the continuity on
back.
this does tend to trip the show up because it's changing writers all the time, and that's also the problem with these Marvel movies is the continuity tends to get a little tangled. But they're going ahead of it, knowing that it's what they have to plan out everything ahead. So, but
that's the thing. It's like, who is the keeper of all the continuity? Who is making sure that? Do they have a single person? Because I feel like.
Boy, I would want that job so bad.
That would be great. Just go combing over every episode. Speaking of comb-overs, William Shatner, Walter Koenig.
Good segue.
Yeah. But Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, is way up there because it's just a great movie and it's in and of itself.
It is, but it's. Have you noticed that Khan is kind of a moron? Khan is when you watch it now, Khan is so stupid because he falls for every single one of Kirk's bluffs or little poker moves. Yeah. And it's not just once, it's like 3 or 4 times he's outsmarted to the point where you're like, wow, we must have been really, really stupid in the 20th century if we got taken over by this idiot.
Right.
He was like the Donald Trump back then or something.
Well, I guess, he was playing into his ego and trying to, knowing that he was blinded with vengeance. So maybe that's... I'll give that to him.
Yeah. But my favorite villain is actually, the third one is Krug, Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
I love Christopher Lloyd because, unlike Khan, he never falls for Kirk's bluffs. Kirk tries several times to fool him, and he's like, he's hiding something. I trust my instinct. I'm going to beam down there and see what's up. It's like, and he shows up and Kirk's like, fuck.
Yeah, and Christopher Lloyd commits. He's so...
Oh, he's definitely that.
Yeah. And that's the first one, that's the first Star Trek that Leonard Nimoy directed.
And it shows. When you watch that movie, when I watched that movie, I did not know what a director was. All I know was Spock wasn't in this movie, but I felt his presence. Throughout the movie, I felt like Spock was here in the story, and then I found out Leonard Nimoy directed it and had a hand in writing the script, and then I learned what a director does. Yeah. And I was like, that explains it. Because his presence, you feel Spock's presence throughout the entire movie. But I understand why people don't appreciate Star Trek 3. I think they like the movie, but they don't enjoy watching it because I
might fall into that camp. I do like it just for its canon, for the fact that it's the search for Spock. They need to recover him, and that's the beginning of it's the middle of the Star Trek trilogy.
Right. That's the unofficial Spock trilogy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're right. And but it's like it's a very, very sad movie. It's very operatic, but it's very melancholy throughout, because Kirk's son dies, the Enterprise is stolen and then destroyed, and everyone gets screwed over at the end, and they're all marooned on Vulcan, and it's a downer of a movie, and even the end is sweet, but it's kind of bittersweet. Right. And I don't think there's it's a tear-jerking movie for sure, which is why it's so great that 4, the follow-up, was just a lighthearted comedy with an intelligently written dumb premise, and that's why everyone refers to it as the one with the whales, because even if they're not fans,
and that's what Myra's saying. She said her favorite crew is the 4th one of the old crew. It's cheesy, but I love that movie. Guilty pleasure. I love that movie too. So And also, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of saying guilty pleasure. If you like something, just like it.
Yeah.
You know, and like it with all your might. But the fourth one is, in retrospect, cheesy.
It's extremely cheesy. I mean, it's so cheesy that Eddie Murphy was almost in it.
Really?
Yes, Eddie Murphy was almost, instead of the whale biologist that Catherine Hicks played, it was originally going to be Eddie Murphy as a radio shock jock, kind of like a Howard Stern type guy.
Really?
On the radio.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Come on. People are saying, like, Eddie Murphy doesn't belong in Star Trek. And I'm like,
It was
I kind of want to see that.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy.
He was supposed to be in Ghostbusters as well. He was
Really?
Yeah, he was supposed to play Winston's role.
Oh.
But they actually, he didn't like the fact that it was such a small role, and he went and did like Beverly Hills Cop or something.
That's
But all of the movies Eddie Murphy could have done. And
I would have loved to have seen that at the time.
yeah.
Things will never but there's a lot of stuff that's about those movies that went wrong.
Yeah.
I personally cannot stand Star Trek Generations.
I do not like Generations, but we'll get
That
there.
was-
Let's just go, I guess, chronologically. So we're on 4. For me, 4, I love it. It's so hello computer, like that's fantastic. That is my friend Charlie barking. Pay no mind to we're trying to save the whales here.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have to bring her back 400 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the fourth one is so funny because you're putting that crew into the modern world of the time, and some of the stuff they did on the street in San Francisco, where they didn't tell the people that they were actually
That scene.
yeah, where
Yeah.
they were like it was punked before punked.
It was. That was literally like a punked a thing that they did.
Yeah.
That woman. The scene where they're in San Francisco, and Chekhov has the woman come up to him, and he asks her where are the nuclear vessels,
Wessel.
and she goes, "Oh, I don't know. I think that's across the bay in Alameda."
Alameda?
Alameda? That's not an extra. That's literally a woman just wandered onto the set, didn't know who she was talking to, and they got her to sign a release, and I guess gave her a SAG card and said, "You're in the movie now." And she still shows up to my knowledge, she still shows up at conventions.
Really?
Based on that one little claim to fame that she has.
And you have a Star Trek claim to fame, but we'll get there. So moving on to 5. You like 5?
I love it. It's Shatner. You wind up Shatner and you let him go, and he just like, what else can you say? It's a window into Shatner's brain.
Yeah.
You got to appreciate that view.
Right. Uhura dancing nude for the Klingons, was that?
Yeah, for those weird guys, and I was like, oh, so that's what you've been
thinking
thinking about whenever you've been looking at Nichelle Nichols for the past 20 years.
Hilarious.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd say as the marshmallows bit and the gravity boots. I mean,
yeah, it was like Star Trek crossed over with Buck Rogers for a few minutes there.
yeah, and I mean, I get the whole fact that the core 3,
Mm-hmm.
Bones, Spock, and Captain Kirk, they go camping, and you want to flesh out that relationship, and I can appreciate it on that level. I saw it when I was really young. I thought it was fine. What would God need with a starship?
That is one of my favorite lines ever.
It is pretty
Shatner
good.
saying that.
It's
what
pretty
does
good.
God need with a starship? It's
I-
like Shatner, Kirk is
badass.
the ultimate atheist at that moment. He's literally looking at God. He's talking to God, staring at him, and he's like, "Excuse me, I got a little question here."
That's pretty badass, though. That is pure Captain Kirk walking straight up to potentially God.
Yeah.
And being like, I see something wrong with this
Yeah.
plan. My gut's telling me something.
Yeah, that's so, yeah. But yeah, Star Trek V, many people hate it, and I can understand why, which is why it's great that was not the last one. It was followed up by 6, which was actually the perfect way to end the original series.
Exactly.
They could not have done better with that movie. I could have done without the shape-shifting girl, though. But
Oh yeah, that was Iman.
I thought that was weird.
But it definitely brought it back to the quality, to the standard
Right.
of Star Trek. That's probably my 3rd or 4th favorite of the how many movies?
Yes, by this point there were 6.
Yeah.
And I will never forget the ending where they're all on the bridge except for Sulu. His chair's empty because he's off captaining the Excelsior.
Amazing scene though with Sulu when she'll fly apart.
Fly her apart then. Yeah.
All right on cue.
Oh boy.
That's so good.
And I love that Sulu was never in the same scene as the rest of the cast members, probably because he just didn't want to be in the same room as Shatner. He's like, this is the 6th damn movie, and it's the last one. I don't want to be around that fucking guy.
Yeah, I want to be a captain of my own ship, the Excelsior.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna be near that.
And what's so funny is that he says in 4 that he really likes the Excelsior, and it's like, okay, you get to have her then.
Oh, I never caught that.
Yeah,
That's
he says, like, I'm hoping to be transferred to the Excelsior. No, we're just going to give you a new Enterprise. You live with that until you get your captain's chair. So yeah, 6. What a perfect ending to that franchise, to the original series, because they can't. You can't do better than that. This thing sounds weird.
Yeah, that sounds weird. What's up, guys? What's up, Lee? We love you too. Maybe tap your mic. Tap the thing, because I don't know. Is it working now, guys? Let me know. It seems like it.
Or am I just mumbling? I have a habit of mumbling, so let me know if I am mumbles today.
Yeah, it might just be the sound. These aren't high quality mics, guys. Let me see. Yes.
Yep. What?
Cool.
Am I back?
How's that, guys?
Better. Good. Thank you.
Warmer? Good.
Thank you, Lee.
Fly her apart then.
Fly her apart then.
That's a much better impression than I can do. I can do. Sulu.
Yeah, I don't have a very good.
But yeah, Star Trek 6 brought it back on track, and brought it all home, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Generations.
Generations is that an example of a movie that should have been something so much more epic. They should have had the Enterprises like fighting each other and blasting each other. It should have been Enterprise versus Enterprise or something really cool like that.
Yeah.
Instead, we got Kirk and Picard chopping wood and talking about eggs, which really is kind of exactly feeding into that the dude that said it's a bunch of old people doing old people things.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that was definitely the moment where it was a bunch of old people doing a bunch of old people things.
Chopping wood, riding horses.
They're literally like chopping wood. You know, like these are eggs. These are my girlfriend's favorite eggs.
People waiting years and years to see these two captains on the screen together.
And yeah, and they were gonna take out. They should have been taking out the Borg. They should have been fighting Klingons, in the neutral zone. And it was like, no, we're gonna fight, Alex from A Clockwork Orange to save some little planet full of a bunch of Bronze Age idiots that we never ever saw. They actually say like, this planet has a population of 200 million people, but we can't actually show it, so we're just gonna say that those are the stakes.
Yeah, and I think Kirk kind of went out like a punk. He just had a bridge fall on him, and
yeah, he's just like, he just crashes, and he's like, and he's lying there, and he's like, it was fun, and then he has this weird moment. Kirk has this weird moment when he dies, where he's like, oh my, where he sees something, and it's like. Is Kirk going to heaven? Is he going to hell?
Maybe he's having a flashback to Star Trek V.
Maybe, or maybe his last words were just a George Takei impression. Oh my! That would have been great.
Yeah, I think he was probably channeling George Takei at that moment. Who was it? So the only original crew in that were Walter Koenig. And
James Doohan.
And James Doohan.
And both of them look like they literally want to go home. They're like showing up and they're going like, I really, really don't want to be here, but the money's so good.
They're just putting their performance in an envelope.
They're literally, they're not phoning in their performances. They're literally just using an app. They're texting their performances and they're posting it to Facebook.
Yeah.
That's how bad their performances are. And also... But the thing about the Generations is William Shatner and a couple of other authors wrote a series of novels that take place after the end of Generations, where Kirk, this is going to sound so stupid, Kirk is dead and he gets resurrected by the Borg and turned into evil Kirk. And
I'm Captain Kirk!
there's a Borgified Kirk as the bad guy.
Okay.
And he fights Picard.
Locutus?
It's weirder than that. It's like the Romulans and the Borg team up to bring Kirk back to life as a weapon against the Federation. So he fights Picard. And there's this whole storyline about the second life of James Kirk, where he's in the 24th century, and he's alive and kicking, and he's got Borg technology in him. And then they bring in the Mirror Universe Emperor Kirk as a new villain. There's an entire series of books that is so ridiculous.
Do they bring in Spock with the goatee?
Yes.
Oh,
they bring
cool.
in all the, and this is
I was just throwing that out there.
This is called like the Shatner verse, where Shatner wrote his own post-Generations series of stories. They're off the wall, idiotic, stupid. They're the most ludicrous fan fiction. But I would give anything to see that turned into live action.
Oh my
because
God.
it's Kirk and Picard fighting the Borg and the Romulans and the Mirror Universe Emperor Tiberius. Kirk gets a new girlfriend and like they go camping together. It's so stupid, but it was like I'm reading this going like,
wow,
this is genius. This is the worst fan fiction I've ever read, but it's Shatner's own fan fiction.
And he didn't even like exploit. See, I have a theory of how you could bring Kirk back, because he entered the Nexus, and once you enter the Nexus, as you saw, he encountered Guinan in the Nexus, or Picard did. Once you enter the Nexus, you're always in the Nexus, even if time doesn't exist there. So if the Nexus reappears, you can get another Kirk.
That's
you can
right.
get a facsimile Kirk.
I'm sure they thought of that, and I just don't think anyone wants to bring back the Nexus because boy, that's a really bad plot device.
It was a terrible plot device.
It was the worst ever. It was just like, oh, it's a giant ribbon going through space.
Yeah, they're like, how do we bridge this gap of 100 years, or whatever it was, 80
There's
years?
so many better ways you could do that. It was so like, just a transporter accident would have been better.
Like in the Next Generation.
Yeah.
With Scotty, and how Scotty was trapped in the Dyson sphere, and
that was really creative.
That was
I
a
love
great
that,
episode of the Next Generation.
But
We're getting real geeky on this Star Trek stuff right now.
So I mean, that's one of the best episodes. But like we were talking about best moments, our favorite moments ever.
Yeah.
Just seeing Scotty materialize in the original series, transporter sound effect on the Next Gen. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, did they use the old sound effect?
They used the old sound effect and the old transporter effect.
Ah, that's really
It was
cool.
really, it was so nostalgically, like, you gave me, a nostalgic tingle up my spine.
The Next Gen really did a great job with that. So we go to Generations 2 First Contact.
First Contact, I think everyone on some level really, really loves that movie.
I love it.
Yeah. It's like...
Time travel again, like in Star Trek 4.
It's weird. It's like it's borrowing elements from Star Trek 4 and Aliens, and it's a zombie movie.
It is.
It's basically
isn't it?
like a zombie movie. It's like a zombie / Die Hard movie on the Enterprise.
Right.
That
works.
Which is really cool because I love zombie movies and I love Die Hard ripoffs, and I'm on board with that.
I love it just for. I think it was, and that's the first one Jonathan Frakes first directed, and I think it really maintains that level of the Next Generation feeling. And
yeah, Jonathan Frakes, and yeah,
and they brought back, it connects, it ties back into an episode, the season finale and the season premiere of the Next Gen, where Captain Picard was assimilated by the Borg.
Yeah, and that was a very that's a bold move, a very risky move, because you can't bank on the the general movie theater goer actually remembering that specific episode, even though it was a big milestone in the show. So, but then again, they did that with 2. So I think it's definitely riskier because a lot of fans probably went to see that movie who hadn't seen every episode.
Right.
It's not like Netflix was around at the time and you could just binge watch all 7 seasons, over a weekend. I remember having to track down VHS copies because it was, if you wanted to see the entire thing, you had to go find them at a video store. So if I had missed that 2-part episode, I would have been completely lost.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think they do a pretty good job of filling you in a little bit.
And that's and that's one where they just embraced the fact that we have a really, really big continuity. We have our shared universe before the shared universes are a thing. It's also the first movie where they tried to write the word Star Trek into the dialogue, and that's a cringeworthy line.
Well, I know a little bit of trivia about that too, and all the Borg with the flashing lights, all of the flashing
pen lasers.
Yeah, it's Morse code for the actors' names.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
yeah. So if you know Morse code, like we all do, like we all learn in first grade.
Sure.
You can pick out like Jonathan Frakes. You know.
Yeah.
LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton's great.
Yeah. So that's oh, man. I think I saw that movie like 8 times in the theater. It was the one I saw the most, for sure.
I just saw it once in the theater, but I did enjoy it. Though I must admit, I have not seen fully Star Trek Insurrection. Now, let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Because every time I watch it, I get about an hour into it, and I fall asleep.
That'll do that to you.
So so I can't rightfully rank it because I haven't fully gotten to the end of it.
Oh.
I've seen the whole thing in parts.
Yeah.
But I cannot make it. So when it's like 3 in the morning and I can't sleep, it is one of the things I look for on TV. I try to look for Star Trek Insurrection, Star Trek 9.
Yeah, that movie would have been a great episode. A great 2-part episode. It's a shitty movie. It's it's not even it's good Star Trek. It's a bad movie. And at the time, it was at a budget of $70 million, and it was the most expensive Trek movie ever made. And to this day, I think there's some dude I think Jonathan Frakes is walking around with $69 million in his back pocket, and they scraped off the top of the budget because that movie looks. You know why that movie looks so cheap? It has this gigantic city-sized set, this big set that they built for the Baku village, and they shot it like a TV a TV.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Frakes is a TV director.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think the guy should be directing feature films because he frames everything like it's a TV episode.
Yeah,
and he
like
wasted,
shot, reverse shot kind of stuff.
Yeah, he wasted the entire village because you see it, and it looks like it's a scene from the TV show. But then when in like 2 wide shots, you see how friggin' big this thing is.
Oh wow!
And it's like, why isn't this set used the way it should? And the entire movie feels like it had its $70 million budget spent in all the wrong places. They build this gigantic set for the interior of the Sona collector, and it's got blue panels on the walls, as if they literally just went, I don't think we're gonna put anything in those blue things in post. We'll just leave it. There's just blue. It looks so bad. And then it's followed up by Star Trek Nemesis, which is the exact opposite, which is a good movie but incredibly bad Star Trek.
Yeah, it was not that good. I didn't. But you know who's in that?
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy playing the clone of Captain Picard.
What a strange performance that was.
It was very strange, especially since we had seen the younger version of Captain Picard in several episodes, I think, or at least one episode when he got stabbed through the heart.
Yeah, we saw like Picard as a young man several times.
Yeah, in the Next Generation.
Yeah.
So the fact that he sort of took his... I mean, I guess he was raised by the aliens in Nemesis.
Which explains why he's so creepy.
Yeah, but...
Which I would hope, because I'm sure... I would hate to think that young Picard was going around the academy going like, I see the darkness in your eyes. The pain is like... I'm sure that he wasn't like that.
We're going to make you Captain of Enterprise.
Yeah.
Go for it. But no, yeah, that was forgettable. It's okay. It's not. It's not my favorite.
Yeah, it's like,
I remember leaving the theater thinking, I don't know.
I remember the theater feeling depressed
Yeah.
and demoralized.
It's very dark.
Like just leaving there. It wasn't even that Data, got killed at the end. I was kind of okay with that, but it was just leaving the theater going, I don't want the 24th century to come around because that sucks.
Yeah. That's where I think the continuity also falls off a little bit because they brought in B4. Is B4 in that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're just like, now you're just throwing things in there, Star Trek. Come on now.
Yeah, that was just so bizarre. Brent Spiner had a hand in writing that script, and God bless
we
him.
need more data. How about all data?
Yeah, I have
How
a
about
feeling.
5 datas?
I have a feeling that whole thing was like Brent Spiner always wanted to play Data's, handicapped younger brother.
Right.
He always wanted to do that in an episode.
He wanted to stretch.
And they never gave him a chance.
Yeah.
So he was like, it's the last movie, guys. Can't I just get my little contribution in? That's the only thing I've ever written. Can't you just put this in? Okay.
Yeah, I think Brent Spiner loves to showcase his acting because I think maybe personally he feels people perceive him as not a good actor because he plays an android with no emotions.
Yeah, I think the guy loves playing a diverse range of characters. Even within Star Trek, he's played
Enterprise.
He's played like 10 people on that show, and he clearly loves being a part of that franchise. So I don't
blame him
for that.
And we go to the 2009 rebooted JJ verse.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you have a little story.
Yes, because I was in it. I was actually in that movie, and it's that was my first acting thing ever in this town, because I'd done like student films in college, but like that's my first time acting in anything, even though it was just an extra. And I was cast as a Starfleet cadet in the academy scenes, and I met a lot of friends on that shoot that I am still friends with today.
That's awesome.
And a couple of them I just met up with recently to go see Star Trek Beyond, and it was like a mini reunion. It was 8 or 9 years ago, and we all look exactly the same.
Nice.
So
that's really cool. So you can actually show up to a convention and sign autographs at this point. Because people were in 2009.
Yes, I do that. I go around to conventions and with this tiny little picture of me like next to Zach Quinto, and I'm like, yeah, you see that? That's me, right here. I played Panicking Red Dot number 137. No, but I have a funny story about, not a funny story, but a like the moment I saw Nimoy in real life.
That's amazing.
And it's on the Blu-ray, the DVD, or the Blu-ray, or the iTunes, or whatever you're watching the movie on. If you watch the behind the scenes, you can actually see this part, and which I love that I can revisit this by going to the DVD and watching it. And it's in the Academy, the scene where Kirk is getting promoted to captain, and the camera is on the balcony looking down, and we're all there clapping, and it's supposed to pull up, dolly back to an over-the-shoulder, and then swing around to Nimoy's close-up. And this is the last day of our shooting for us. We are exhausted because we have been up since 2 a.m. This is a grueling shoot. You shoot a movie with J.J. Abrams. Makes
you run around whole time.
J.J. Abrams makes you work.
Yeah. God,
that man he's not a slave driver. He's a very, very nice director.
Right. But you can see that a lot. There's so much movement and people are always running around.
I must have lost like 10 pounds on that shoot. Yeah. But we're wiped out. We're exhausted. We're sitting there going, oh God, I'm so hot in this thing. I want to rip this off. And he's like going, guys, he's on the balcony with a microphone. He's like, guys, I know that you're having a really, really tough time, and I know you're tired and everything, but I just want to show you guys. Look, Mr. Leonard Nimoy is in the house. Awesome. And we all look up. We're like, what? What? That's awesome. And it's like the whole thing just turned into went from being a film set to being this nerd out, this ultimate fanboy convention nerd out. and that instantly like perks everybody up.
Yeah.
They're all like gonna get back. Okay, pull the uniform. Zip. All right, we're ready.
And
We're
that's pretty. That's a really good directing technique, actually, on JJ's part. That's a smart idea. He just got everybody pumped up
Yep.
and ready to go again.
He had to come up with a lot of stuff like to keep people motivated. He had a raffle. Okay, that's the thing about J.J. Abrams. He had a raffle for the extras, for all the cadets, because every couple hours we'd stop while they're resetting or doing a new setup, and we all had tickets, and he'd be like, okay, Carl Urban comes up and goes, today's number is 98472. Who's got that one? And some dude is like, oh my god, that's me. And JJ's like, here, you win an Xbox.
What?
And the guy's like, motherfucker,
Sounds like a party.
I get to be in Star Trek and I win an Xbox. Oh my god. So, yeah, it really was.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, the camera keeps crapping out.
Yep.
Get a new camera soon.
Anyway.
But you don't want to see that, do you?
So, yeah. So that's my little
That's fantastic.
anecdote about
That's pretty. So people won stuff on the set.
someone walked away with like I think it was like a $200 Starbucks gift card, and someone walked.
That'll last about 3 days in LA.
Yeah, someone walked away with a piece of the set dressing.
Did you get to take a picture of yourself in the uniform at all?
No,
It's
they
probably-
were very
Yeah.
secretive about that, and they made us sign all these NDAs and everything.
Yeah.
They had us wearing raincoats over our uniforms so that paparazzi would not
Right.
be able to get a picture of us.
That's
And
crazy.
we were crazy about that. Because it sucks having to wear that. The uniform itself is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you're sewn into it, and you're sweating your nuts off. And on top of that, you have to wear this raincoat. And then we're doing this for days and weeks. And then Chris Pine's first day at the academy, he's coming out of a porta potty. Paparazzi snaps a picture of him from a distance. It's on the internet the next day, and he shows up, and we're just like, "You bastard! We've been keeping our uniforms secret for weeks, and you
Might have been a stunt. You never know.
Oh, it was so there were things like that just made us go like, oh. It was
Face palm.
It was a great but very grueling experience.
That's cool.
It was wonderful and hard work, but that's what being Starfleet is.
I think that movie paid off. I liked Star Trek 2009 a lot. I think it's a quality movie. It did what it needed to do, which is to bring in a new crowd and also keep the continuity of the old universe to make fans like me happy, so that you're still everything that's happened still happened, but now we just loop back to the beginning and start in a different parallel universe. So I think that was a pretty smart idea. It was the first major reboot, I think.
It's a first in continuity reboot that actually really worked. And I think that's probably what gave them the idea to fix the X-Men franchise.
Right.
After the fact was they're like, oh, let's just go back in time and not hire Brett Ratner. But yeah, it's that movie. Yeah, that was the first time they were able to please fans of the show and newcomers, because that was their big problem. They had so much continuity that they had. It's kind of hard to bring in new fans. It's hard to bring in new fans when you have to tell them you have this much homework to do.
Right.
I can't get into Stargate SG-1 because I don't want to feel like I have to watch 10 seasons, of some old show that's probably really dated.
So they did a good job at recruiting new people, and do you think they went overboard with Into Darkness, where they were doing a little too much fan service with Khan?
Boy, it's. I can't even call that fan service. That's a really weird, I think that they. I honestly have no idea what they were thinking with that one, because they're like, bring back Khan. I am on board with bringing back Khan.
Right.
But upgrade him. Don't downgrade him.
Mm-hmm.
We already saw Khan wearing a Starfleet uniform in Space Seed. We already saw him with kind of a ragtag, like commanding a Federation ship in Wrath of Khan. This was a really missed opportunity to bring in Emperor Khan. Bring in this big, badass guy wielding a giant scepter and an army of augments going, blow up that planet, like...
Yeah, just like bring Khan to a new level.
Yeah.
Do you think they could have done that with Khan or a different...
I don't see any villain besides Khan that we would want to see that upgraded to,
right.
Because Khan has always been cemented as the best, and I have to use air quotes for that, the best Star Trek villain, because I don't think he's the best. I think he's the favorite.
Nero was pretty cool.
Nero, yeah,
I liked him. He was just bad, just
vengeful. But yeah, like this new Umberto Quidditch match version of Khan was just very dialed down. And the thing about that version was it could be anybody. Mm-hmm. It could have been a random British dude named John Harrison doing all this crazy shit to the Federation.
JJ denied it actually being Khan, and on IMDb it said John Harrison.
Yeah, and by the time he says, I am Khan, you're like, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah. I remember that moment in the theater, and I was like...
I was hoping it wasn't Khan.
Yeah.
I was hoping he was going to say, like, my name is...
Mike.
I was like, say Joe, say Bob, say anything but Khan. Khan.
Yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought you were Khan. I remember nudging my girlfriend saying, I knew that.
Yeah. So by the time that rolls around and it was like, I was just like, okay, let's just see where you're going with this. And then it just kind of goes nowhere. That movie doesn't really have a climax. It just sort of ends, doesn't it?
It's got a few ideas in there that were really cool. One of them was pointed out to me. Overall, as a movie, I watch it like fast food. It feels like fast food to me. I'm like, I watch the whole thing. I'm like, stuffing my face with that movie. It's great. Mm-hmm. And by the end, I'm like, well, what'd I just eat?
Yeah.
Because then if I think about it, it feels like unfulfilling and not very Star Trek. Just
not Star
fun,
Trek at all.
But it's watchable. It keeps my attention every time. There's one really cool moment that a friend of mine pointed out. In the fight scene between Spock and Khan,
mm-hmm.
There's a really cool moment where they showcase Spock's abilities.
The nerve pinch?
Yeah, well, there's the nerve pinch that didn't work. It's
mm-hmm.
kind of hurt him, and then he kind of grabbed his hand, turned it around, and then started choking Spock, but then Spock mind melded with him.
Oh, yeah, that was neat.
And then he felt it. And took his hands off. So that was a really nice...
It's like, choke this, asshole!
Yeah, exactly. So Spock is always figuring out what to do in every situation.
That's actually a really great trick. Like, if someone is actually hurting you, like, mind meld with them so they feel what you feel, and that gets them to stop. That's actually... I never noticed that.
Yeah, it's very brief, but it's definitely there.
Wow.
My friend pointed it out to me.
I'll need to see that again. That's clever.
It's pretty neat. It's pretty cool. And then now we get to Star Trek Beyond,
which we pretty much covered extensively in last week.
We did.
But it was that was really thank God, and it's disappointing that movie didn't perform well financially, which is what they say. Yeah. I don't see how it failed.
It's enjoyable.
Everyone who saw it loved it. So
yeah, I think if JJ had directed it, there might have been more hype behind it or something. But he was off doing some other movie. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, something else. I can't remember. I think it was Sharknado or something.
Yeah. So if you want to see, I guess, our discussion on that, we definitely have a lot of talk of Star Trek Beyond. I actually I don't have an official Star Trek shirt. I went to 3 different stores looking for a Star Trek shirt. I know it's sacrilege, but I wore a red shirt just, as a tribute to Star Trek today.
I stopped myself leaving the house in a Boba Fett shirt.
You don't want to do that.
I caught myself right before I got in my car.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, so
where's Star Trek going to go? What's the future of Star... What do you think Gene Roddenberry would have wanted Star Trek to... Where do you think he would wanted it to go? If that makes any sense.
To the 24th century, probably.
To the 24th century.
No, it's like the trying... We already kind of have a sense of... we know that there's going to be a 4th movie. I don't know what they're going to call it. Star Trek Into Darkness, Star Trek Beyond. I'm hoping for Star Trek The Next Preposition, but it'll probably be something like Star Trek Into Infinity, Star Trek Across the Universe.
Yeah, they're trying to make these sentences out of the title.
Which is kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
So there is a new movie, and Chris Hemsworth has been announced to be coming back as Kirk's father, because now Hemsworth is now a big star, and he's Thor, and, you know, why else wouldn't you want to team the two Chris's up in the same, you know, in the same movie?
You might as well get Chris Pratt as well, just have a Chris Trinity.
And Chris Evans to show up. It's like Captain America walks by, hello, you know.
Yeah, exactly. All the Hollywood Chris's. But that's pretty cool. I think. And
then all of a sudden, Chris Walken shows up. It's like I'm gonna be here for a moment. Now,
and then Zombie Chris shows up from the chat room and is like, "I'm just in a chat room. How did I get up in this Star Trek movie?"
Like, and it's like what can you do to bring the dead Chris Hemsworth back? What?
I don't know. He flew into the camera as the Enterprise.
Don't tell me he's gonna be cloned, and don't tell me if it's time travel, I'm okay with that, but I'm not. It's not my favorite.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping. You know what I'm hoping? Mirror universe.
Mirror universe. Get him a goatee.
Yeah. Get him. Just write it that he's older, and it's George Kirk. And in the mirror universe, George Kirk didn't die. He's in like gray hair and a nice beard, and he crosses over. So we get the new crew fighting their mirror universe counterparts. That's a long shot, I know.
But I mean, why can't they bring back Shatner? Why can't they bring him back?
They would, if they did. It would probably be like Kirk from the new Kelvin timeline. Mm-hmm. It's probably Shatner's the future version of Chris Pine.
Right. I can see that.
And I don't know. I think it's probably best just to leave it.
They did bring him back as a hologram in the 2009 version when
they were gonna, yeah.
But I remember Spock shows young Kirk a picture of William Shatner. He's like, "Hey, this is William Shatner. You're gonna turn into William Shatner."
Yeah, right.
We're best friends.
This is gonna be. Oh shit! This is gonna be. You're like, yeah, this is gonna be you in 50 years, and Chris Pine's gonna be like, "Wow, that's really, really great hair I've got." About that.
Yeah, come with me, son.
Yeah, we have to.
We need to
tell you about this. You know, like, you might want to think about going the Picard route and just embracing it. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Just go the full-on commit to one thing.
And also, in the next few months, next January on CBS, we've got Star Trek Discovery.
Yes.
Brian Fuller is bringing Star Trek back to episodic TV. And if you don't know who that is, Hannibal, that's all you need to know. Hannibal.
Beautifully shot television show.
It's really, really great. It's
really, great show. Great. Hopefully they bring it back somehow for like Netflix or something.
Yeah.
That was a great show.
But if he puts the effort that he put into Hannibal into this new Star Trek, we're in for a very, very visually stunning show, because the cinematography and the abstract look of Hannibal is really, really amazing, and it's perfect for a sci-fi aesthetic.
Yeah, and here's the thing though, you're gonna have to pay for that. I heard that you exclusively, even if you have CBS On Demand, which you pay for, you have to pay extra.
Yep.
To get the Star Trek series. So hopefully it's as good as a Game of Thrones or something like that.
Yep, and I will buy it when it hits iTunes. I will buy it. I won't pay for it. I won't pay for CBS, whatever the hell that video on demand thing is.
It's really the only reason to get HBO Go is to watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So maybe to get the CBS is.
This could be like sci-fi's Game of Thrones. You know, it's like if it lasts as many seasons as I hope it does. And the other interesting thing about this one is that the captain is not the main character. We have seen 5 shows where it's from the captain's perspective, and now we're going to see it from the perspective of one of the lower officers.
Ah, that's
Who
cool.
is rumored to be named Number 1.
Really?
As a reference, and if that's the case, it's probably going to be Majel Barrett's character from the original pilot, The Cage. Because if you know that one, it's also in the Menagerie. It's set.
Majel Barrett Roddenberry.
Majel Barrett Roddenberry, yeah. I don't know why I left that Roddenberry off there. I just know her as Majel Barrett because of the cast That's how she's credited. But it's probably going to be... We know that Star Trek Discovery is set 10 years before the original series, puts it squarely in the timeline of Captain Pike's run on the Enterprise.
Wow.
So this could be the continuing adventures of his mysterious and unnamed first officer, who we don't know who she is. And that is the weirdest thing. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, for a continuation of that. And I think it would be a great way to...
That sounds awesome.
To tie it in with the original series without burdening it with too much continuity.
Right. Right. I think that would be fantastic. I mean, I think Gene Roddenberry's original vision is to always have these morality plays. And I think that's kind of what makes it last. For me, the morality plays, I mean, we talked about that earlier. So if this new series definitely incorporates these sort of paralleling... Good sci-fi always does that. It parallels what's going on right now and turns it into an analogy or an anecdote or some kind of parable of what we're experiencing in our lives. And that's why we...
That's right.
And they take it, you know, and it's, in sci-fi sometimes they take it all the way to the nth degree.
Yeah.
So you can experience, you know, that's how you relate to it. And hopefully this new series can do that.
I hope so, and I hope it's not bogged down with the politics of the Federation and a lot of this stuff. I just
like the Star Wars prequels.
Like, yeah, we don't,
there's nothing we wanted to know more about the Star Wars universe than the Congress and the politics and the Senate.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted as a kid. I wanted to see the Star Wars version of C-SPAN. You know?
Star verbal wars between senators. C-SPAN.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. I was watching C-SPAN. You're like, I moved that the
space.
Senate moved to table this motion. I am E.T. and I say the same thing. You know, like,
I'm like, all right, blow something up.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me see a lightsaber.
Can we see a Death Star, a super weapon, or something like that? Anything, please? No. But that being said, I think Star Trek will go back to the opposite route of being all big, epic, space battle-y type stuff that JJ started bringing in, and hopefully we'll go back to kind of a screwed up situation of the week.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what I like. Episodic, episodic, and a soap opera in space. I love it. Well, there you have it. 50 years of Star Trek. I mean, it's been an amazing 50 years, and hopefully it goes another 50 years. And I'm looking forward to that CBS show. I'm looking forward to potentially Chris Hemsworth showing up in another Star Trek movie.
Exactly.
So what's your favorite Star Trek? I see some comments here. Some of you like 4. I like 4 a lot. I like 2. I like 8.
Some people agree that Khan was definitely a mistake. Yeah.
I do agree that Khan was a mistake. And there you have it. And guys, stay tuned for later, because I have a video coming out because I finally reached 1,000 subscribers. So I'm going to have my giveaway, so watch out for that video. And subscribe to Bad Panda's channel. What's your channel? The Bad Panda blog.
The Bad Panda video blog.
The Bad Panda video blog.
Link down there.
It's down below if you just want to click on that and subscribe to it right now. I'm Aristotle Full Throttle, your bro with the fro and the no.
And I'm Bad Panda and I need to do my roots.
And we'll